Hey there. Today I want to talk a bit about how two threats have become like three threats have become like four threats, and four threats are still just kind of like four threats in the release schedule that we've been getting, and if that's okay. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. So, towards the end of last year, there was a lot of discussion about the lack of threat values outside of, well, for threat. Taking a look at last year, we had Rhino, Beta Ray Bill, Agent Venom, Spider Woman, MODOK, M'Baku, Squirrel Girl, Gwenpool, Emma Frost, Psylocke for 10 four threat characters. And that doesn't include all of the core box characters with Winter Soldier, Captain America, Black Widow, Iron Man, Baron Zemo, Red Skull, and the new Doc Ock for a total of 17 four threat characters. Then we had one seven threat with Immortal Hulk, one six threat with CGR or Cosmic Ghost Rider, four five threats with Ulik the Troll, Claw, Cosmic Marvel, and the Tyrant Ultron. And rounding it all out, we had two three threats with Crossbones and Spidey. So, of the 25 models released last year, two-thirds were four threats, and we had no two threats at all. At a glance, it's a very easy to look at 2023 and just kind of call it the year of the four threats. We also had Shatterpoint's release, which also made this year feel a little bit different for MCP as it played second fiddle, understandably, to the newly launched game. However, after looking at the known releases for 2024, the revealed cards, and we have seen maybe 2023 is just going to be closer to the new normal. We know that the Wakanda Rivals pack will have a 4 and a 5. Nightcrawler and Bishop are both 4 threats. Shadow King is a 5 threat. We haven't seen Iceman or Xavier's card yet, and maybe Bobby is a 3 threat, but I feel like we're likely to see them be another 4 and 5 threat, respectively. Sure, Kitty Pryde will come out as a 3 threat, which does give us at least one earlier in the year than we got last year. From there, we go to the Sinister Six, which might have a 3 or 2 amongst the group with Shocker and Vulture. And Sandman, though, feels like the foe's first in Affiliation 5 just waiting to happen. Gwenom and Scarlet Spider absolutely could be another set of four threats, as Ben, being a pretty punchy character, feels like he could be a four along the lines of Agent Venom and Spider Woman, and we have yet to see a symbiote at less than four threat. Shang-Chi lands as a 4 or a 5, and Silver Sable probably feels like a 3 or 4, just depending on what they do with her set of powers. Um, then we get to all these Asgardians, and Sif is probably the 3 of all of these, but the rest definitely feel higher up the food chain. So, looking ahead, there are a lot more opportunities for some 3 threats, but looking at last year, I would have thought the same thing. Now, maybe we start seeing a like a singular three threat character per wave of releases, which would still be welcome compared to 2023, but still a tick less than what we had traditionally gotten. Now, this is just the trend I've seen over the past year and a little bit longer. And obviously, my threat predictions for the shown but not revealed character cards could be way off base, and maybe Sandman is a 4 and we get three more 3 Spider Foes. The real question is, if I'm right, what does it mean for Marvel Crisis Protocol? And I think the answer really just comes down to one thing: no more two threats. Personally, I find this a little bit of a bummer because it rounds out some teams nicely, and I would love for most of the larger affiliations to get a two threat at some point where it makes sense. Shocker for the Spider Foes, Peter Porker, the or Spider Pig, Spider Ham, whichever one you want to call him by, for the Web Warriors, and then maybe the Inhumans get an Inhuman that makes sense, but I'm not really familiar with the team, so I don't know. Maybe Triton can qualify. He doesn't. He's just like a fish dude. I don't know. Most of all of the other affiliations, though, have at least one two threat. Sure, Asgard and Black Order don't, but that feels pretty on brand given the power levels of those groups. Aside from that, more fours than threes might feel awkward at times. But we have so many characters already released that, other than the new shiny factor, we aren't going to really be hurting on missing some more three threats as long as they still occasionally come out. As well, Atomic Mass Games have seemed to really tighten their already tight structure of characters at the 3 and 4 threat levels, and seems like they are closing in on the 5 threats as well. Like, if I were to make a four threat tier list right now, there are very few outliers in the highest and lowest tiers. In my ideal world, every character would be in the A to B range, and earlier on in the game, we had some extreme outliers like Medusa, Enchantress, and Black Panther, who shone like a star, while some characters like Daredevil, Captain Marvel, and Green Goblin were stuck in the mud. Though through some free balance changes, AMG continue to take the characters who stand out too much on either side and put them in line. Right now, I genuinely believe there is only one four threat model that needs tuning down, and even then, only by like a single number somewhere, and only one four threat that card that I think desperately needs some love. But I'm not here to get into that minutia for this video. I just want to point out that AMG have found a really good design space for the four threats, and evolving the game around that rock solid spot is not a bad thing. Now, I know some people look at the last year's worth of four threats and maybe see some power creep and think that AMG hasn't perfected the four threat, they're just making them more powerful. To that, I ask, is it really power creep? Let's take some of the four threat characters that got nerfed in the first balance pass, like Black Panther and Medusa. Or even just one of the early fours like Vision that hasn't been touched and is just from the early MCP. These characters are solid characters that hold up to everything released in the last year. They all have controls, some form of defensive tech, ways to damage multiple enemy characters in an activation outside of just a normal double attack, uh, and either some form of mobility or an ability that makes it so they can't be pushed. A lot of these recent four threats check all of those boxes too, and again, one goes a little bit further, but like one number change on that card brings them in line with all these other characters. So yes, these latest four threats maintain a strong play experience for four threat, and it could be seen as power creep if you just compared to some of the four threats that honestly were just kind of misses out of the gate initially. But that's also why AMG has been doing these balance passes so that all of these characters have a strong play experience. Not to mention, if you look at AMG's character balance changes, you can really see the level of power they're aiming for at each threat level. All of this to point down the road and say AMG are pushing forward, making a great game that has great balance. There are missteps that have all come really just at all the different threat levels. I mean, we had pre-nerf Black Panther, Enchantress, and Medusa at the same time as we had pre-buff Green Goblin, Gamora, and Captain America. All that to say, AMG has been tightening the range of where characters are, and by their actions, they continue to strive for a well balanced standard. So even if they don't freely and openly talk about it, odds are they are continuing to make strides to make the new models fit the right balance point and continuing to hone the older releases toward that point as well. That's all I have for this. I think at the end of the day, it's not a huge issue for the lack of three threats. We're still getting some threes, obviously a plethora of fours, some fives, and the occasional six and higher up threats that maybe still need some tuning in that department, but that is what it is. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. Are you missing out on all of the potential two threats and three threats that could have been, or are you just happy that we're getting to a point where these characters are all being released and are all extremely viable right out the gate? Here at the end of the video, I want to give a shout out to the guild sponsors. If you're in the UK, shop at Tritex and use the code Tritex GGCP5 at checkout for an extra 5% off. And if you use that on a pre-order item like the X-Men that are coming out, Nightcrawler, Bishop, all those goodies, it'll save you 25% off in total. If you're in the US, though, you can head to gamechefs.org and use the code GamersGuild, no spaces, to save an extra 15% off of their already discounted prices, which comes out to a really good bargain on your end. However, I will continue to say if you're shopping from your own LGS, just keep supporting them. We all understand and appreciate that. So thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.